So welcome everyone to our fourth session of our series on scientific questions then and now, bringing together historians of ancient and medieval philosophy with physicists and historians and philosophers of modern physics. Welcome in the name of myself and in the name of my co-organizers, Katja Krause, my fellow group leader here at the Max Planck Institute, and Mike Chase, who is currently a visiting scholar at the Institute, virtually visiting at the moment, but hopefully soon visiting in person again. And also welcome in the name of those who you've already met probably through emails and just now who have helped set this up. Anina Wojcik, who's assistant and digital curator in Katja's group, Ksenia Mohelski, the assistant of my group, and Emily Philippi, who's a student assistant in Katja's group, and all of those have contributed to setting up these meetings. We're very glad to have you all here. It's a pleasure. Today we're going to be talking and thinking about space, the question of what the nature of space is. And I must say that we had some discussions in the beginning whether we should have a separate session on space. After all, in modern physics at least, anybody who's an expert on space also tends to be an expert on time. Not sure if it's the other way around, it's true too, but certainly space and time in the theory of relativity have famously been welded into a somewhat indistinguishable unit of space and time, space-time. And we weren't sure whether to do a separate session on space. After all, space and time are kind of like siblings, always have been, even more so in modern physics. And time is kind of the troublesome little sibling, always causing mischief everywhere and popping up all over the place. Indeed, in all of the sessions that we've had so far, time has cropped up as well. For example, in our session on creation, turned out, the most difficult thing for the creator to create is certainly time. And so I'm so sure also we're going to be speaking a fair amount of time again today, and that's fine. And space, in a way, in this picture is kind of the sensible older sibling, maybe a little boring compared to the shenanigans that time tends to be up to, but perhaps for the thing we're after, space is actually ideally suited. If you look at time, and we had our session on time yesterday, we observe there, right, this vast multiplicity of concepts of time, of temporal concepts, very complex concepts of time, changing over time to historical time in that case. And you very quickly end up with, with this ontological multiplicity that very quickly tends to look like a very incommensurable notions of time that we have in different epochs. And so you maybe get this kind of incommensurability or this impression that we have very distinct and disjoint time concepts somewhat too quickly. After all, what we want to do in these sessions here is to look at precisely whether the apparent incommensurability of the questions and the concept used in these questions are really as incommensurable as historians tend to think. Whether when the ancients asked, what is the nature of space? Whether that was really the same question in any sensible way as it is when modern physics and modern philosophers ask these questions. And we want to look at this incommensurability or test this incommensurability by actually having a dialogue between representatives of ancient and medieval thought on the one hand, and the thinking of modern physics on the other hand. And use this dialogue to locate the incommensurability or the potential continuity more clearly, to see where the real change in this concept is and where communication becomes impossible, and to see where the apparent change is really just superstructure and the formalism being used, and where really we can sensibly talk about big questions like what is the nature of space, not changing over the epochs. These big questions that have been with humankind for millennia, at least apparently, but often tend to be dismissed by historians as merely seeming to be the same, when really, of course, ancient philosophy and modern physics mean very different things when they talk about space. And it seems to me that the sober reliability of the older sibling of space might be indeed more suited to actually look at where incommensurability happens and where it doesn't. I'm sure I'm going to be proven wrong today in calling space more boring and sober and reliable in these talks today, and I'm very happy to be proven wrong there. But still, I think that space as a very localized, pardon the pun, topic that does not, go all over the place like time, might be very, very helpful for us to actually have a focused dialogue where we can see in what sense these concepts have changed in an incommensurable way in history, and in what sense modern physics is really still trying to answer, or has answered, the same questions that already occupied ancient and medieval philosophy. I should say that for my part, at least, I am very happy to discover both continuity and realize that these questions are indeed the same, and that the answers of modern physics would have been seen by ancient and medieval philosophers as, when translated correctly, as bona fide answers to the questions that they were asking. But I'm also very happy to see communication breakdown, because that will also give us very, very interesting historical insights, very valuable lessons about how, on a fundamental level, these questions, these big questions, no longer mean the same when they're asked in ancient philosophy and when they're asked in modern physics. So the lesson for our speakers and discussants today is maybe really don't be afraid to ask those simple-minded, seemingly stupid or unsophisticated questions, because I think it's exactly in those where we're going to see where things don't really fit together anymore, or where we really observe something like fundamental change, or to get out of the way the differences that are just superficial. And so I'll leave it at that. So go ahead and ask those simple-minded questions after your talks. And I'm going to take a step back, hand over to Katja now, who's going to be introducing our speakers and chairing the session with the introductory talks. So thank you very much. And I'm very happy to have you all here.